I believe we're on. Good morning. I've just been on a brisk morning walk. Actually, it's a little bit earlier. I got to see the sun come up, and I'm pretty lucky that I've got a pretty safe neighborhood here, and I get to say morning resh and watch the sun come up and do my solar adoration in the morning, and it's always fun. We are on almost the last chapter of the Chicken Qabalah of Rabbi Lamed ben Clifford. And I hope you've been enjoying this. When this is over, I've got plans, or I may give us all a rest, but we'll see. If there's enough interest, I'll pluck another book and start our morning things. But anyway, we're continuing on the chapter called The Chicken Tarot and the Holy Guardian Angel. And we were talking about the fairy tale of the princess and the princess court card of the tarot and her special relationship with the ace. And this is where we'll pick up. Kabbalists call the dream world of the sleeping princess the microcosm, or the little universe. It's the world of Asiya and the nepish part of our soul. And it's placed at the very bottom of the tree of life. And here I have some illustrations, but I think it's easier to show you like this. There's the princess. This is the Princess of Wands. And that's where she'd be on the tree of life on number 10. And she's asleep down there. Okay. The world of the prince, this guy, is Yetzirah, the next higher Kabbalistic world. It's known as the macrocosm, the big world. It's our ruach. On the tree of life, the macrocosm is attributed to the six sephiroth in the middle of the tree. And there's that diagram. And on our tree, this guy would rule this whole section right there. This is his little principality here, but his headquarters is right there in number 6. So the princess is the Hey final, or the final Hey in Yod Hey Vav Hey, and the prince is the Vav in Yod Hey Vav Hey. The world of the queen is Braya, the next higher Kabbalistic world, which is represented on the tree of life by the third sephira of the supernal triad, Binah. So this is where we would, that's where we'd find the queen. Spared no expense in these audio-visual aids here. The queen corresponds to the neshama part of our soul, or the soul intuition. The world of the king, or in my case, the knight, or the Thoth Tarot, the knight, the world of the king is Atzilith, the highest of the Kabbalistic world, which is represented on the tree of life by the first and second sephira of the supernal triad, Kether and Hokmah, and the Chai part of our life, or our soul, or the life force itself. So, that's sort of where the king is. He's like a yod of Yod He Vav He, but the little tip of the yod, the little cap of yod, is sticking right up there in Kether too. And of course, all of this stuff lives inside that ace of wands. And that ace of wands has a very special relationship with that princess. Okay. Let's see. Okay. The magazine interviewer picks up and says, "All of this is breathtakingly interesting, Rabbi. I can see why the princess and the earth element are unique and important. I certainly do want to hear more about this holy guardian angel fellow. But before we end our interview, you promised to explain why the princesses do not represent degrees of the zodiac like the other 12 cards, 12 court cards." The rabbi says, "You're right. I've rambled on, haven't I? Well, I had to, in order for you to see that the princesses aren't just as much a defining key to their suit as the ace is. The ace and the princesses are like the alpha and the omega of their suit. Actually, the princess is the throne of her ace. While other court cards and small cards represent coordinates of time, while ruling degrees of the zodiac and days of the year, the aces and their princesses rule quadrants of heaven, which translate into quadrants of space and areas right here on Earth. Imagine yourself looking down upon the North Pole of the Earth. Now divide the world in two by drawing a line that runs from the North Pole through Giza and all the way down the world and back up to the North Pole. Then quarter section the globe by drawing another line at a right angle to the first. The 4 quadrants of Earth are attributed to Yod He Vav He thusly. The quadrant east of Gaza, or most of Asia, is ruled by the ace and princess of wands. The ace and princess of cups rule the area generally of the Pacific, and the ace and princess of swords rule the Americas. And the ace and princess of discs rule most of Europe and Africa. And I've got a chart here. Now, if you had a chicken Kabbalah book, you would have all of these charts yourself. The magazine says, "This is incredible information. It could be very helpful in readings concerning global matters or international finance, or if the question treats on the subject of travel." The magazine says, "Absolutely amazing." The rabbi says, "You know, just winding up here, you and your readers might not think that learning all of these attributes is going to help your tarot readings in any way, and I can't promise that they will. But what I can promise is that in the process of learning these traditional attributes, you'll discover that you're giving yourself a wonderful liberal arts education in religion and philosophy. It's possible you might never be called upon to use any of this Kabbalistic information in your career as a tarot reader. But I can almost guarantee that, as the result of your study, you'll discover that you've become more interesting and a more eloquent person. And these are certainly traits people look for in a competent tarot reader." And the magazine interviewer finishes off, Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford, it has indeed been a pleasure and a most enlightening afternoon. Thank you very much. I'm sure our readers will find this most provocative. That's the end of chapter 9, the chicken tarot. I'd like to point out that I read and have since 1975 tarot cards for other people when I'm asked or can arrange it. And if you've ever had a reading from me, you most likely remember that I often bring up certain dates or time periods in our discussion of whatever it is your issue is. And those are triggered by the date coordinates, either the 10-degree period of the small cards or the 30-degree period of the court cards. That in the course of a divination, sometimes the classic divinatory meaning of the card just doesn't make any freaking sense at all. And it's at times like that that I pay very special attention to the dates associated with the card to see if perhaps the cards are trying to draw our attention to incidences that happened during that period of the recent past. So anyway, all of that technical information can actually be translated into more practical purposes when you're reading tarot cards for yourself or for others. The next chapter is chapter 10, and it's called Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford's Last Lecture. And it covers games that Kabbalists play. And because we've got just a few moments more here today, I'm going to read Lon Milo DuQuette's introduction to games Kabbalists play. And then we'll call it quits for today. Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford's Last Lecture, Games Kabbalists Play, introduced by Lon Milo DuQuette. And here's an epigram, of course, from the rabbi. In the game of Kabbalah, the object of the play is to lose yourself. The winner gets nothing, and you've only yourself to play with. This chapter is perhaps the most unusual of the entire book. It was compiled from fragmentary notes and diagrams that represent, as far as I can determine, the last known instructional writings of Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford. Less than 3 weeks after he scribbled the following, apparently unfinished essay, he was reported missing by his disciples. The police found nothing in his apartment that would indicate foul play or give them any clue as to the circumstances of his disappearance. A search of local newspaper clippings of that period revealed nothing out of the ordinary occurring that week in his Montauk neighborhood, other than a brief electrical brownout and an unseasonably intense infestation of gnats. Personally, I would like to believe that the man who called himself Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford is still alive and living somewhere on the East Coast. His work now done, he's dropped his colorful persona and resumed whatever life he had before his bizarre incarnation as the rebel rabbi and guru of the chicken Qabalah movement. This last paper appears to be yet another address to the imaginary students of Zippy, serving as their introduction to the fundamentals of Gematria, Notarikon, and Temura. But as we will see, the essay repeatedly dissolves into the most extraordinary digressions and becomes something quite more. This work ends abruptly with a curious, poignant musing on the perfection of the universe. It is clear by the tone and intensity of the lecture up till that point that Ben Clifford was approaching the transcendent level of consciousness he so often advertised possible through the practice of Kabbalistic exercises. A state of mind in which he perceived virtually everything, connected, reflected, and forming the pattern of everything else. We feel an almost voyeuristic self-consciousness as we peer through the window of his words to glimpse the fabled Kabbalistic chain reaction of thoughts coursing like a multiple helix through his remarkable mind. What does it all mean? He repeatedly asks. Who cares? He joyously answers. With Zen-like non-attachment. Whether it is madness or illumination, we can't help but stand in mute admiration as he valiantly struggles to keep objectively focused on the subject at hand. Again and again he loses the fight and merely slips the bonds of linear rationality, plunging deep into the heart of the very process he's trying to describe. In doing so, he demonstrates that the soul of the Kabbalah is truly universal, revealing itself not only in the Hebrew letters and books of the Bible, but in things as familiar as one's own name, or as innocuous as the words, "Have a nice day." And tomorrow we'll pick up with Gematria, Notericon, Tamura, and the games Kabbalists play. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great day and a wonderful weekend. Be good to yourself and be good to each other. Love is the law, love under will.